the silent witnesses, Captain Sarah Chen stepped off the transport shuttle onto the surface of Veil 3, her boots crunching softly on the crystalline sand that covered much of the planet's surface. The twin suns cast everything in a gentle purple haze, making the landscape look like something from a dream. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Webb and the rest of the exploration team gathered their equipment, their movements careful and respectful in this alien environment. "Atmospheric readings are perfect," announced Lieutenant James Park, checking his scanner. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth normal. Temperature is comfortable. This place is practically paradise." Sarah nodded, but her attention was focused on something else entirely. In the distance, she could see them, the Valens. They moved across the landscape in small groups, their tall, slender forms seeming to glide rather than walk. Their skin had a translucent quality that shifted between silver and gold depending on the angle of the light. To most observers, they looked like beautiful but simple creatures, no more intelligent than Earth's dolphins. "Magnificent, aren't they?" Dr. Webb said, joining Sarah at the front of the group. His excitement was barely contained, and Sarah could see why. Marcus had spent years studying alien life forms, but the Valens were special. There was something about the way they moved, the way they interacted with each other, that suggested depths beneath the surface. The Galactic Council had classified Veil 3 as a Class D world, habitable, but inhabited only by non-sentient life forms. According to their reports, the Valens showed no signs of technology, no complex social structures, no language that could be detected by standard communication equipment. They were beautiful creatures, but creatures nonetheless worthy of basic protection, but not the rights afforded to intelligent species. "Dr. Webb," Sarah said carefully, "I know you have theories about these beings, but we need to be absolutely certain before we make any claims. The Council's xenobiologists have studied them for 3 years. Marcus adjusted his specialized recording equipment, devices he had designed himself to detect patterns that standard scanners might miss. "Captain, with respect, the Council's xenobiologists are looking for intelligence that matches their own understanding. They expect radio signals, written language, metal tools. But what if intelligence can manifest in ways they've never considered? As if responding to his words, a group of Valens in the distance suddenly stopped their movement. They formed a perfect circle, their heads tilted upward toward the sky. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, impossibly, the air around them began to shimmer. The effect was subtle, like heat waves rising from hot pavement, but it formed complex patterns that pulsed and shifted in ways that seemed to organize to be natural. "Are you seeing this?" whispered Communications Officer Alina Vasquez, her instruments detecting strange energy readings. The shimmer effect lasted for exactly 63 seconds, then faded. The Valens resumed their previous activities as if nothing had happened, but Marcus was staring at his instruments with an expression of pure amazement. "Captain, those energy readings, they're not random. There's a mathematical precision to them that suggests intentional communication. The patterns repeat at specific intervals, and they're incredibly complex." Sarah felt her heart rate increase. If Marcus was right, if the Valens were actually intelligent beings communicating through methods the Council couldn't detect, then everything about this world's classification was wrong. More importantly, it meant that humanity had stumbled upon a civilization that had been systematically ignored and overlooked by the galaxy's most advanced species. Over the next several days, The team established a temporary research station and began careful observations of Valen behavior. What they discovered defied every assumption the Galactic Council had made. The Valens lived in complex social groups, with clear hierarchies and specialized roles. They cultivated the crystalline formations that covered their world, somehow encouraging the growth of structures that were both beautiful and functional. Most remarkably, they seemed to communicate through manipulation of quantum fields, creating invisible patterns of information that no conventional technology could detect. They're not just intelligent, Marcus explained during one of their evening briefings. They're operating on a level of consciousness that makes our communication methods look primitive. They're manipulating the fundamental forces of reality to share information. Elena had been working tirelessly to develop new equipment that could interface with the Valen communication method. "I think I'm starting to understand how it works," she said, showing them readouts from her modified sensors. They're creating quantum entanglements between their neural systems and the environment around them. It's like they're turning the entire planet into a communication network. The breakthrough came on their 8th day on Vale 3. Elena's communication device finally managed to detect and partially decode a Valen transmission. The message was simple but profound. "We see you, we welcome you, we have been waiting." Sarah stared at the translation displayed on Elena's screen. Waiting. Waiting for what? Before anyone could answer, a group of Valens approached their research station. They moved with purpose, and as they drew closer, Sarah could see something she had missed before: intelligence shining in their large, multifaceted eyes. The lead Valen, slightly taller than the others, with skin that seemed to contain tiny stars, stopped just outside their camp perimeter. Elena's equipment crackled to life. "With a new transmission, we have watched many species come to our world. They look but do not see. They listen but do not hear. You are different. You seek to understand rather than to judge." Dr. Webb stepped forward slowly, his hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "We want to learn," he said aloud, hoping Elena's equipment could translate his words into their quantum language. "We want to understand your people." The response came immediately. "We are called the Veta. We are the guardians of the deep. Harmony, the watchers of the quantum flows that connect all things. For 12,000 of your years, we have maintained the balance of this sector of space." Sarah felt the implications hit her like a physical blow. 12,000 years. The Valens, the Vetar, had been a spacefaring civilization since before humans had discovered agriculture. They had been watching and protecting this region of space while Earth was still in its Stone Age. "Why haven't you contacted the other species?" Sarah asked. "Why haven't you made your presence known to the Galactic Council?" The answer that came back filled Elena's screen with complex patterns that took several minutes to decode. "We learned long ago that beings of metal and fire see only metal and fire. They measure intelligence by their own limitations. We found it safer to remain hidden, to work in the spaces between their understanding. Until now, Lieutenant Park asked, until a species arrived that was willing to look beyond their own expectations. Until humans came to our world." That evening, as the team sat around their camp discussing the implications of their discovery, Elena received an urgent communication from Earth Command. The message was brief but alarming. The Hegemony Mining Consortium had filed a claim for strip mining rights on Vale 3, since the planet was classified as containing only non-sentient life. The claim would be automatically approved unless someone could provide evidence of indigenous intelligence within 30 standard days. Sarah looked at her team. seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. They had found something incredible. A civilization that had been hiding in plain sight for millennia, dismissed and overlooked by every advanced species in the galaxy. Now that civilization was about to be destroyed unless humanity was willing to stand up for them. "Elena," Sarah said, "how fast can you get a detailed report back to Earth, complete with all our findings and proof of Vatar intelligence?" 18 hours if I route it through the emergency channels. "Do it. Marcus, I want every piece of evidence we've gathered, compiled, and verified. James, prepare the ship for potential combat scenarios. If the hegemony wants this world, they're going to have to go through us first." As night fell over Vale 3, the Vatar began their evening harmony, a planet-wide communication that created aura-like patterns in the atmosphere. Sarah watched the lights dance across the sky and made a silent promise. Humanity had spent centuries searching for its place in the galaxy, wondering what made their species special. Now she knew. They were the ones willing to see intelligence. Where others saw only emptiness, they were the ones willing to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The battle for Vale 3 was about to begin. But Sarah Chen had never felt more confident about humanity's cause. They were going to save a civilization that the galaxy had forgotten, and in doing so, they were going to prove that sometimes the greatest strength came not from advanced technology or military might, but from the simple willingness to stand up for what was right. The Veta had been waiting 12,000 years for someone to truly see them. Humanity had arrived just in time. Asterisk. The Stand for the Forgotten, the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened exactly 14 days after Sarah's report reached Earth. The massive chamber on Station Prime buzzed with tension as representatives from dozens of species filled the tiered seating arrangement. At the center of it all stood Captain Sarah Chen, Dr. Marcus Webb, and Earth's ambassador, Rebecca Torres. Facing a panel of skeptical alien officials, Council Chairman Zeftok, a towering Altarian with crystalline features, gestured for silence with one of his forearms. The human delegation claims to have discovered evidence of sentient life on Vale 3. This is a serious allegation that directly challenges 3 years of established xenobiological assessment. Ambassador Torres stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "Honored council members, we don't make this claim lightly. The evidence we've gathered proves beyond doubt that the beings you call Valens are actually an advanced civilization that has been systematically overlooked because their intelligence operates on principles none of our species previously understood." A ripple of skeptical chittering filled the air from the insectoid Sekenar delegation. Their representative, Ambassador Clicking of Stones, rose to speak. "The humans present interesting data, but nothing that proves true sentience. Energy patterns can be naturally occurring. The hegemony has invested significant resources in the Vale 3 mining operation. We cannot halt galactic commerce based on speculation." Dr. Webb activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber with the quantum communication patterns they had recorded. "These are not random energy fluctuations," he said firmly. "They follow mathematical principles, more complex than any naturally occurring phenomenon. The Vatar, their true name, communicate through quantum field manipulation. They've been doing it for over 12,000 years." The chairman's translator rendered his words with obvious disdain. "Even if we accept that these patterns are artificially created, they show no recognizable signs of technology, civilization, or cultural achievement. Where are their cities, their ships, their monuments? Sarah had expected this question. She activated another display showing the crystalline formations across Veil 3's surface. Their entire planet is their technology. Every crystal formation, every energy flow, every natural feature has been carefully cultivated and maintained. They don't build separate from nature. They guide nature itself. Their civilization is integrated with their world in ways we're only beginning to understand. From the back of the chamber, a new voice interrupted the proceedings. The speaker was Tokraves, representative of the Hegemony Mining Consortium. His species, the Corvellians, were known throughout the galaxy for their ruthless efficiency in resource extraction. "This is all very fascinating," Vess said, his mechanical voice translator adding an eerie quality to his words. "But the consortium has legal claims to the mineral rights of Veil 3. We have contracts, schedules, and obligations to fulfill. The economic impact of delaying our operations would be measured in trillions of credits. And what about the impact on an entire civilization?" Sarah shot back. "You're talking about strip mining their world, destroying 12 millennia of careful cultivation, wiping out beings who have achieved something none of us have ever imagined." Chairman Zeftok raised a hand for order. "The human arguments are noted, but the burden of proof for sentience remains high. Unless you can provide direct communication with these alleged beings, using methods that can be verified by council scientists, this session will conclude with approval of the mining rights." Sarah felt her heart sink. They had tried for days to convince the Vatar to communicate directly with the council, but the quantum communication method required equipment that didn't exist in the council chambers. Alina had worked frantically to adapt their translation systems, but the technology was too new, too different, then impossibly. The air in the chamber began to shimmer. The effect started small, just a slight distortion near the central holographic projector, but it grew rapidly, spreading outward in complex geometric patterns that pulsed with their own internal light. Every piece of electronic equipment in the chamber began registering energy readings unlike anything they had ever detected. "What is happening?" Chairman Zeftok demanded, but his words were lost as the shimmer effect reached every corner of the massive room. Elena's communication device, which she had brought as backup equipment, suddenly crackled to life. Her voice, amplified by the chamber's sound system, began translating words that appeared on her screen. "We speak now to the gathered species of this council. We are the Vatar, guardians of the world you call Veil 3. The chamber fell completely. Silent, the shimmer effects intensified, and somehow, impossibly, every delegate's personal translator began receiving the same message directly. The Vatar was speaking to all of them at once, in their own languages, through their own equipment. For 3 of your years, your scientists have walked our world and seen only primitive creatures. They measured our intelligence by the standards of metal and conquest, of visible monuments and audible speech. But intelligence need not announce itself with crude signals or towering structures. Ambassador Clicking-of-Stones was frantically checking his instruments. "This is impossible. There are no Valen ships in this sector. How are they transmitting across interstellar distances?" The answer came immediately. "We do not need ships to speak across the void. We learned long ago to touch the quantum threads that connect all matter, all energy, all consciousness. Your council chambers exist within our communication network, as does every world in this sector of space." Sarah watched as the implications of this statement hit the assembled delegates. The Vatar weren't just communicating across space. They were revealing that they had been capable of monitoring council activities all along. This wasn't a primitive species being discovered. This was an advanced civilization choosing to reveal itself. We have watched your species rise and fall. The voice continued through every translator in the room. We have seen empires built on conquest crumble into dust, while civilizations built on harmony endure for eons. We chose long ago to guide rather than to rule, to protect rather than to dominate. Tokraves found his voice. If you possess such advanced capabilities, why haven't you claimed your world officially? Why haven't you joined the Galactic Council? Because we have seen what happens to worlds that possess resources desired by the consortium. We have watched as galactic law becomes a tool for the strong to exploit the weak. We chose invisibility over destruction. The shimmer effects began to coalesce into something visible, not quite holographic projections, but definite forms that seemed to exist in the space above the chamber floor. The assembled delegates gasped as they saw the Vatar for the first time as they truly were. Beings of incredible grace and obvious intelligence, their forms somehow suggesting both ancient wisdom and advanced capability. But humans came to our world differently, the lead figure continued. They looked beyond their expectations. They asked questions instead of making assumptions. They showed us that perhaps not all young species are doomed to repeat the mistakes of their predecessors. Sarah felt a surge of pride, but also tremendous responsibility. The Vatar were revealing themselves because humanity had earned their trust. Now she had to prove the trust was warranted. We offer the Council a choice, the Vatar spokesperson said. You may proceed with your mining operations, and we will fade back into invisibility. You will extract your resources and never know what you have destroyed. Or you may recognize that intelligence comes in many forms, that civilization can exist without conquest, and that the galaxy is vast enough for both metal and harmony. Chairman Zeftok was clearly struggling with the implications. What assurance do we have that your people will participate in galactic affairs? How can we establish formal relations with beings who can hide from our instruments? You have the word of the humans who first chose to see us as we are. They will speak for us until we judge whether this council can evolve beyond its current limitations. Sarah stepped forward, understanding her role. The Vatar are offering Earth the honor of serving as their advocates and representatives. We accept that responsibility. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some delegates argued that beings who could manipulate quantum fields posed a threat to galactic security. Others worried about the economic implications of halting major mining operations. But gradually, a new understanding emerged. The Vatar weren't asking to join the galaxy's existing power structures. They were offering an alternative vision of what galactic civilization could become. When the final vote was tallied, it was closer than Sarah had hoped, but decisive enough to matter. Vale 3 was granted protected status. The hegemony's mining rights were revoked. More importantly, the Council established new protocols for detecting and recognizing forms of intelligence that didn't conform to traditional expectations. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out of the chamber, the Vatar manifestations began to fade. But before they disappeared entirely, their spokesperson addressed Sarah directly. You have given us hope that consciousness can evolve beyond competition and conquest. We will remember this day, and we will watch to see if humanity continues to choose understanding over exploitation. 3 months later, Sarah stood once again on the surface of Vale 3, but this time she wasn't alone. Scientists from a dozen species had requested permission to study Vatar civilization. eager to understand their quantum communication methods and their integration with natural systems. The planet that had once been scheduled for was now becoming a center for learning and cooperation. Dr. Webb joined her at the edge of their research station, watching as human and alien scientists worked alongside Vatar guides to unlock the secrets of quantum field manipulation. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked. Sarah watched as a group of young Vatar demonstrated their communication abilities to a team of fascinated xenobiologists. "Marcus, we didn't just save a civilization. We proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our willingness to see potential where others see only emptiness, to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves." In the distance, aurora-like patterns began dancing across the sky as the Vatar began their evening harmony. But now, Sarah could see similar patterns beginning to appear around the alien scientists' equipment as they learned to participate in the planet-wide communication network. The galaxy was changing, one connection at a time, and humanity had shown that sometimes the greatest victories came not from conquest, but from choosing to protect those who had been forgotten by the stars. Asterisk.